Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So, here's a question for all of you. Why should a god care about a mortal? It's a little bit of a misnomer to use the term god here, but I think it puts the point across well. Why does the Witness care about humanity is the real question. The Witness is a being of power beyond anything we've seen, and yet it has decided to draw out its conflict with humanity and the rest of Sol, as opposed to simply storming the entire solar system and conquering it outright in a shorter span of time. So, why not just do that? Why allow resistance to persist? It could have been done in the space of a few days, but instead, the Witness has been hanging around for years, committing various violences against us. Why do this? Today we're going to look at the answer to that potential question as displayed in the Final Shape Collector's Edition lore book, Entelechy. The horrifying reality that we'll discuss is this. In one sense, the answer to that question is comforting, because the reason is not alien and unknowable. It's not a thing of madness forged in the death of stars or the minds of sickly creatures that our minds can't comprehend. It's actually just a remarkably human reason. In another sense, it's a little terrifying because it's the worst possible outcome within those that we might reasonably comprehend. Why does a god care about what happens to us? Why has the Witness taken so long with its invasion? Because the Witness hates us, and the Witness is cruel. But first, a word from our sponsors at Starforge. If you're looking for a great gaming PC without the fuss and hassle of constructing it for yourself, then look no further. They offer a 2-year parts and labor warranty, so if ever you get any of their great PCs, you are covered. Starforge has a bunch of different rig options, by the way, from their core Horizon 2 line, which is great for gamers on a budget, to their fully stacked Voyager 2 content creator PC rigs. Use my code down below in the description to nab yourself a discount on any PC in their range, and thanks again to Starforge Systems for sponsoring this video. So, we're looking into the Collector's Edition lore again, but this time we're not focusing on the precursors. We're explicitly looking at the Witness. It should be noted that some of what even Eido tells us in this lore is speculative, and is a lot of conjecture. But I should remind you that, red herrings aside, Bungie writes and presents lore to us with a reason in mind. If Eido is speculating about the Witness's motives in-game, we should be listening, because that's the writers trying to communicate something to us. So when Eido ascribes meaning to the Witness's actions, that's not to say that they're presenting us with the whole puzzle, but it is to say that her perspective reveals a part of it. I say all of this because this entire video is all about that search for meaning in the Witness's actions as we seek to better understand this ancient entity. Understand why it's operating, and, well, potentially you have a better pathway towards defeating it. You might even discover some weakness that lets you defeat it more easily. So, what are we actually looking at today? Well, we've got a few different lore entries to look into, and all of them display moments where the Witness is actively destroying a civilization. We don't exactly see the Witness in these moments, but we do see the repercussions of its actions more clearly. Through them, as well as through Eido's notes, we can see the intentions of the Witness. Our first little entry comes from near the start of the Entelechy lorebook, and it shows us a whole new alien civilization that has never been heard of before. Yes, this is a whole new one. This is like another Books of Sorrow in a certain sense, but it's actually surprisingly short in terms of its interaction, and I doubt that we'll ever see any other note of this civilization because, well, I mean, you'll see. They were wiped out by the Witness, and we will probably never hear from them again. But we at least know that they were known as the Noesis. So, let's take a listen. Scribe Archive XI149D. Type: Emergency Transmission. Retrieved from the Spider's Collection. Long-Range Communications Beacon. Disabled. Origin: Unknown. Keywords: Witness. Annotated transcription follows. I learned of its arrival scarcely 3 marks ago. As my anchor slumbered in the belly of this ancient outpost, I drifted into the noosphere, webbing, and was swept up in delight. Millions of thought forms sharing the news, the revelations spreading from leading to trailing edge, until even I was buoyed by the tide of joy. First contact with a stranger, a friend-to-be. A chance for the hazy margins of our noosphere to grow, to encounter new thoughts and expand with new richness. It had been so long since we encountered the Whisper, Nightmare, Predatory Memeplex. We had grown naive without the reminder of fear. From the leading edge came a current. It swept through our noosphere, a spark in dry brush, ink in water, hope curdling in an instant. The emanations were confused and fragmentary. I could not pass them all. Planets stolen from space, ripe fruit plucked from orbit, structures dissected and reassembled by thousand-fingered hands. Anchors and selves unraveled into first principles, sectioned into wafer-thin slices. It was only one voice at first. A cry of joy at the meeting of a new mind, twisted to fear and pain. Help me! Chaos in the noosphere. The placid surface churned into white froth. Thought forms scattered in their thousands, fleeing up the webbing strands and finding doom at every junction. Help me! The stranger, ruin, predatory memeplex engulfed our noosphere in a moment's idle fancy. Our thought forms were atomic in comparison. We never stood a chance. As each of my people were found and taken apart and reassembled, a new voice joined the chorus. Help me! My people died in their thousands. Thoughts and selves wisping away into nothingness. Thousands of years of memory, no more than smoke in the wind. Help me! Here, in this outpost, I am apart from the rest. Tethered at the trailing edge, furthest from its lamprey moor. Not far enough to escape, not near enough to help. Help me! 1,000 emanations from 1,000 minds, blending into a single scream. The same scream every time, again and again and again and again. When we untethered ourselves from their anchors, we knew that we as a people would not be divided again. No matter how far we traveled in real space, the vastness of our noosphere, webbing, home, was but a thought away. Our fears, our hopes, our dreams, our longings, our triumphs, we would always be able to reach out and know one another. Where one was weak, another could be strong. We would share each other's joy and bear each other's pain. That sound. Help me! I am ashamed to admit that I could not bear it a moment longer. I severed, exiled, imprisoned myself. I regretted it the moment I did it. We were dying, but we were dying together. My unimaginable cowardice will not assure my survival, only a delay in my execution. The ruin, predatory memeplex, witness, knows the pattern of our oscillations. I can still hear it, still plucking the tattered edges of the noosphere, webbing. Why do you hide? The witness will find me, and when it does, there will be nothing. No one. I believed I would die alone in this abandoned outpost, but I found a crate, forgotten deep within a dusty storeroom. Emergency beacons, produced and stored in another time, one when we knew the fear of death. We see you. To you, receiver, inheritor, hoped for future, I offer what little I know. We are dead, but not unmade. We are ossified, temporized, reiterated, perpetuated, anatomized, finalized. I do not know if this will help. I do not know. I do not. But perhaps you will prevail. Come now. Do not be afraid. This is not a call for help. It is too late. There is no one left. The witness, cannot be stopped. This is our last proof. We, the Noesis, existed. Transcription ends. Scribe notes. Note 1. A self-reinforcing group of informational units which subsumes lesser concepts, a predatory idea. The Noesis seem to have used this term to describe any serious threats to their minds. The first usage appears to refer to a past threat which the Noesis survived. This note is made next to the word predatory memeplex. Note 2. The images of the Witness's attack on the Traveler and what it did to the Coalition ships is fresh in my mind, as I am sure it is in yours. This note can be found next to wafer-thin slices. Note 3. The Witness appeared as a highly intrusive foreign concept in the transmission, which was able to cannibalize all overlapping concepts. This is found next to the word the Witness. Note 4. Another intrusive foreign concept. I believe this is the Witness itself communicating directly to the recorder. This is next to the first line of dialogue, which appears to be from the Witness, which says, "Why do you hide?" Note 5. Significant semantic overlap here. I believe the total blended concept is related to the final shape. This can be found next to the sentence, "We are ossified, temporized, reiterated, perpetuated, anatomized, finalized." The Spider has acquired many items of interest over his lifespan, but precious few may be accessed freely, even in the best of times. The worst of times, on the other hand, seem to have inspired some conditional generosity. Reluctant as I was to request his assistance, the information I have gleaned has more than paid dividends. Ugh, that's something he would say. The contents of this beacon proved quite challenging to transcribe. It seems to operate on a similar principle to your sensoriums, but it directly transmits concepts rather than inducing sensory hallucinations. Some of the concepts show significant semantic overlap, though whether due to the nature of the data, age-related degradation, or the recorder's emotional state, I cannot say. Now, from the content of this record, I believe we may draw a few conclusions about the Witness's methodology. It is capable of disassembling body and mind, then somehow reassembling them. It did not destroy the Noesis, but unmade and then finalized them. Curiously, this account describes a markedly different approach compared to similar recorded attacks. The conquest of the Noesis was swift, almost surgical, and remarkably thorough. The Witness does not seem to have cultivated a disciple from among their numbers or left anyone who could tell the tale. Yet it did not simply massacre them. Consider how the Witness speaks to the Noesis who is recording. It is almost gentle. There was no comparable communication during the Whirlwind. I reviewed all the information about the Noesis I could find and discovered this. The Noesis never encountered the Great Machine. Is it the presence or absence of the Great Machine which determines the Witness's approach? Did the Witness ever speak to humanity during the collapse? Did it offer comfort, as it did to this doomed Noesis? I need more information. In this first assertion here and this first examination within her notes, Ido actually hits the nail on the head, and we'll see more of that when we get to the details about the Witness and its actions during the collapse. The key here is the manner in which the conquest of the Noesis happened. It was efficient, carried out at near lightning speed and with little regard for the defenses of the Noesis. It just happened. Ido also seems to describe the Witness as almost gentle in its final moments. It didn't enforce any suffering on the Noesis with a long drawn-out war or a bloody campaign of violence and despair. It didn't raise a disciple from within their own ranks to destroy them from within. Certainly there was suffering, but it was limited. It was quick, and they were not destroyed so much as reassembled, recreated, as Ido puts it, and as the recording puts it, finalized. That was not the case with so many of the other species that were annihilated by the Witness and its followers. The reason why is also seemingly pointed out by Ido at the end here. The witness knew that the Noesis were never contacted by the Traveler. The Elixni and humanity, on the other hand, suffered monumental, legendary events of destruction and annihilation by comparison, and they knew the Traveler in their system. They had had a golden age. It's here that Ido expands on these records and gives us more credence to this idea that the way the witness interacts with a civilization is based on whether they've interacted with the Traveler. And that is the first clue as to what the witness is doing and why it's drawn out its attacks so much. Quite simply put, again, it hates us, and we start to see a reason why here. Her next record was unearthed from humanity's collapse. It recounts the story of one of the Exodus program vessels, known as Exodus Yellow, and tells us more of their fate. Much like the Exodus Green, aka Yang Lewei, the vessel that was pursued into space by the Witness's Black Fleet and eventually created the Awoken, Exodus Yellow was also attacked with gravitational weaponry, and in this instance they also received orders from Rasputin to fight back against their invaders. This time, however, Rasputin would play a more integral part in the story of Exodus Yellow and its destruction. The transcript from these recovered broadcasts reads as follows. Scribe Archive XI-1630. Type: Emergency Broadcast Sensorium Telemetry. Retrieved from CloudArk Archives, Deep Storage, Neomuna. Neptune, Exodus Indigo 4B0082, Bank 021830192. Origin, Exodus Yellow 402K1977.10G 0011370021. Identities: C. Liang, S. Benuna. Keywords: Collapse, Black Fleet, Rasputin. Annotated transcription follows. Mayday, mayday, mayday. All stations, this is the Exodus Yellow. 25,000 souls aboard. We are under attack by unknown hostiles and sustaining heavy damage. Engines 1 through 6 are down. Kinetic weaponry has been disabled and we are transmitting in the blind. We have a possible sky shock event. Requesting... Emergency broadcast is merged with sensorium telemetry from the Exodus Yellow's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. C. Liang. An open medical data feed is displaying updates on the condition of the ship's officers. Several are listed as deceased, including the captain, and the remainder have moderate to severe injuries. All are located on the ship's bridge. Dr. Liang is running through the corridor connecting the ship's medical bay to the bridge. She is speaking rapidly on an open audio channel with Comm Officer S. Benuna. But we're not a warship! Doesn't matter to the Warmind, not under Karhe White. We can't possibly have any working guns, not after that last hit. What does Rasputin expect us to do? Wiggle our engine nozzles, that big ugly triangle? System warning. Structural impact. Pyramid, Doc. This is not the time for pedantry. How can you be so calm? Kinda have to be, don't I? Nobody else is in any shape to do anything. If we're in Karhe White and Rasputin's telling us this is what we've got to do, then the alternative must be worse. Worse than 20,000 dead colonists. Hold. Oh. Doc, grab... Liang lurches violently and impacts the wall. The Sensorium's medical data feed cuts out and remains offline. Ugh. Benuna! What was that? Benuna? Anyone? Liang resumes moving down the corridor. She exhales sharply and begins to speak to herself, recording with her sensorium. Okay. Status. Our systems, including communications, are on the fritz. We're limping on 2 engines. At least 3/4 of the crew are wounded too badly to act. The captain's dead, and we've got no guns. If whatever we're fighting doesn't kill us all, Rasputin will. System warning. Mass growl, phaeton strikes, sterile neutrino scattering. Oh god. What is that noise? Sounds of metal groaning. Liang abruptly stops and begins to back up. System warning. Exodus Yellow tensile strength exceeded. Ahead of Liang, support struts begin to fracture. The floor ripples and the ceiling buckles. The portion of the ship Liang has just come from is not as strongly affected. Tension is released. The ship's structure snaps back into place. Liang falls hard but recovers. I could feel that in my teeth. Some kind of gravity wave. Rasputin's gone mad. We can't hold position any longer. We'll die. We'll all die. Anand. I just need to get Anand up, and she can get us out of here. Liang resumes moving forward. The ship's structure shows visible signs of strain, with materials having stretched and deformed far beyond normal tolerances. Benuna? I'm here! I'm here! Liang reaches the airlock. The door shows visible fractures but opens when Liang applies force. Benuna! Liang begins to retch violently, backing away from the door. The bridge is covered with a layer of organic material and damaged flight suits. System warning. Warsat preparing to fire. Still heaving, Liang clutches the door frame. She opens a wide-range broadcast channel. All stations, stand down. We are in your line of fire. System warning. Warsat firing. Please, this is the Exodus Yellow. 25,000 souls aboard. System warning. Exodus Yellow hull integrity fatally compromised. The ship comes apart around the Warsat's beam. Liang tumbles unprotected in vacuum. Liang's sensorium captures a gap in the debris field. The pyramid ship is completely unharmed. Transcription ends. Scribe notes. Note 1. Expletives omitted. This is next to hold, dock, grab. Note 2. Most likely Flight Dynamics Officer P. Anand, who was one of the injured crew on the bridge. This is next to the name Anand mentioned by Liang in her last few moments. It was quite difficult to find first-hand accounts of the collapse. The humans who lived through it are long dead, and any contemporary exos have been rebooted several times since then. Most data, even when encoded and protected in engrams, has degraded too badly to be recovered, especially under the post-collapse conditions on Earth. But I heard about Neptune, the city of Neomuna, and the people who hid during the collapse. I suspected they might have more complete records. The journey to Neptune was long and quiet, but the rumble of a ship's engines is as familiar to me as any lullaby. It's a shame that there isn't any remote uplink to Neomuna's archives yet, but to be honest, I relished the chance to visit it myself. The stories and images were pale mimicries of the city, the lights, the colors, the sounds. I've never seen anything like it. This is not mere exaggeration, I mean that. Until now, every settlement of every civilization I have ever seen has been a ruin of its former self. The last city is a marvel, a testament to humanity's survival and spirit, but even here, I can see the scars left by your collapse. Neomuna was marred by the war which landed in its midst, but it was still a vision. I could see the shape of your golden age in its skyline. I was greeted warmly by Scribe Lagari. How marvelous to discover a kindred spirit. She was quite helpful, and I shall have to return when I'm able. The Neomuni have a tremendous bounty of information in their cloud arc. I have even been asked to share some of my own stories, so they may be recorded for posterity. Together, we were able to retrieve and repair several records that were badly damaged, either by Vex incursions or data degradation. And I have included the most relevant record here. Also, Scribe Lagari asked me to tell you hello, and to remind you that the Hall of Heroes is open to you whenever you may wish to visit. Her holoprojection performed an unusual motion when she said this. I believe that you would call it waggling eyebrows? It was very fascinating. Is there a corresponding gesture among exos? Onto the record itself. We can see that the Black Fleet deployed gravitational weaponry, which is corroborated by other accounts of Sol's collapse, and our own records of the Whirlwind. Such weapons were not described by the Noesis' account of the Witness's attack. We also do not see evidence of what the Noesis described happening to their civilization: slicing, anatomizing, temporizing, nor do we see any serious attempts from the Witness to communicate. I have reviewed everything I could assess about the Warmind's attempt to halt the collapse. Rasputin declared many protocols, two of which I find important here. Kahe White, a state of emergency so severe that Rasputin could seize control of the entire system's defenses and even conscript civilian ships to serve in combat, suggestive of a threat of extinction. And Twilight Exigent, a situation that required a change in Rasputin's ethics. If obeying ordinary ethical restrictions would result in the extinction of humanity, then Rasputin needed a way to bypass those restrictions. Rasputin seems to have enjoyed abstruse terminology, useful for masking intent, but quite difficult to parse. How do I pronounce Kahe? Is it easier without mandibles? Perhaps I should start a dictionary. It would be easiest to ask Anna Bray directly, as she knew the most about Rasputin, but I thought it might be discourteous to ask so soon after his passing. According to all the documentation of Rasputin's defense of Sol, even with such extraordinary circumstances allowing him to act beyond his normal limits, Rasputin could not stop the Black Fleet. Had the Great Machine not acted, the Black Fleet would have ground all Sol into dust. Still, I cannot understand why the Black Fleet would choose to deploy gravitational weapons if they were totally unharmed by humanity's greatest weapons. If the Witness could disassemble entire fleets with a wave of its hand, why would they need to use such comparatively slow weaponry? Perhaps this was not done out of necessity, but why then? I feel that I am missing something. So here we can start to see some of the major differences between the conquest of Sol and the fall of humanity in the collapse versus the conquest of the Noesis and their destruction at the hands of the Witness. Two similar events undertaken by the same actor, aka the Witness, and yet it has a remarkable different tone. One is quick, efficient, and whilst certainly it was the end of an entire people, the Witness sought to comfort them and even communicated with one survivor. The Noesis were destroyed with surgical precision, as was stated by Ido. But Sol's collapse, the destruction of humanity, or the attempted destruction, was a very different circumstance. Gravitational wave weapons were deployed against the Extus ships. They are not fast weapons, they are not quick or efficient or even precise. They're slow and cause a breakdown and warping of a subject at an atomic level, something which is described in the Yang Lewei logs in particular. The captain, Alice Lee, states that it was an experience that one had to grit one's teeth through. It felt as though every single nerve ending was being pulled and pushed. Unlike the Noesis, there was also no attempt to communicate with any element of Sol's civilization. It might not necessarily be relevant, but the fact that the pyramid was attacked by Rasputin and took no damage from its weapons might imply something further. The Witness could have simply just waved its hand and deconstructed Sol, destroyed all of human civilization and folded it into its conception of the final shape, but it chose not to. The destruction of the Noesis was so quick that a fleet probably didn't even have much time to deploy. This is something that was described by the Noesis record as being 3 marks ago, and whilst we don't know what that means in terms of human timescales, one can assume that it was very quick. Meanwhile, on the side of the collapse, the Witness deployed an entire fleet of pyramid ships. The Witness knew that people would attempt to fight back, but even Rasputin's greatest weapons left the pyramid ships completely unaffected. We know that this is the effect that pyramid vessel technology has when defending its own vessels. Asher Mir fired several different weapons at them, and they have no effect because the weapon fire or energy that's being projected at the pyramid ships is actually transported into a surrounding pocket dimension where it just fizzes off harmlessly and does no damage because it doesn't hit a target. The very design of this defense almost implies invincibility. It's almost something that would seem unnecessary as well, considering that it implies you're in a long drawn-out engagement where the enemy can fight back. The Witness let us fight back is the key part of that. The Witness allowed us to fire at its own ships, and it allowed them to project invincible defenses. It allowed them to show this idea of there being no hope, where it could have simply waved its hand instead and ended our suffering quickly, instead of allowing us to sit in our dread. The very design of this defense implies the Witness's design here. That's a point that'll get picked up on more later as we delve into the next few logs and talk about what the Witness did on Earth, which is what we found thanks to the now completed records from Ada 1 and the Black Armory papers. Now, these papers were scattered and in need of reassembly anyway, but they essentially collected the notes and thoughts from one of the founding matriarchal leaders of the Black Armory, namely Henrietta Miran. They have been mostly incomplete for a while, with many missing pages, but Ada 1 has helped in filling in one of the more important records. What follows is a complete transcript of the now completed 68th Black Armory page entry, reconstructed from both the original and its now recovered second half. The full entry reads as follows, and it recounts a moment during the collapse and what Henrietta Miran saw as the Black Fleet began to invade Earth. Entry 68. They are here. They are real. I can't believe we were so right and so wrong. To think we could stop this. To say we were naive would be an understatement. We simply didn't know. Their power, their strength, it's insurmountable. As they draw closer, all we can do is hide and hope that the facility doors will be strong enough. It's utter chaos out there. Too many have put their faith in the Traveler. I don't know what sort of answers people expect from a gigantic ball in the sky. It remains silent, as always. At least I'm with her. Being with family is all that matters in the end. There is no more hope. Only the screams of humanity. Transcript reconstructed. Transcript continues as follows. They arrived at night. Yuki woke me up. I had never seen that look on her face, that fear. "The sky," she said. "The sky! The sky!" She couldn't say anything else. When I looked outside, I understood. The stars were going out, one by one, as though a titanic veil were being drawn over them. The sky grew darker and darker, then light. I realized later what had happened. During humanity's early forays into space, we'd littered the low Earth orbit region with debris. Some of it had been removed, the better to facilitate interplanetary travel, but there was always so much. It burned. All of it. The whole sky was aflame. I ordered everyone to the bunker. The earth heaved and cracked open underfoot. A sickly green light pervaded everything. Radios hissed static and screams. The wind hurled cars and houses like toys. By the time we reached the facility, the wind had stopped. A dreadful stillness hung in the air. When I looked back, I could see a great cloud in the distance. It reminded me of a sandstorm, a wall of smoke and dust bearing down upon us with unnatural speed. Amira. She had fallen behind, and the cloud swallowed her. She withered down to the bone wherever it touched. It could have been poison, or plague, or... Helga closed the doors. I'm not sure whether to thank her or not. Transcription ends. Scribe notes. The Black Armorer approached me as I was resupplying in the city. She had heard of my search for information pertaining to the Witness, the Black Fleet, and the collapse, and wished to help. Though it seemed to physically pain her to part with them, she offered me a sheath of papers. They were so torn with age, I feared they would crumble in my claws, and I held my breath when I transcribed them. She waved away my thanks and said you had found these documents for her some time ago, and to consider this a favor repaid. More clues, more pieces of the puzzle. Fire and smoke. poisonous air, earthquakes, cyclones. Why did the Witness cause great tidal waves on Titan if it could simply take the entire planet as it did later? Neither the Eliksni nor humanity were as advanced as the Ecumene or countless other fallen civilizations. It could have overrun either of us without all the theatrics. Theatrics? As though all of this was mere performance. Like those ghosts who put on masks during the Festival of the Lost and pretend to chase the children of the city. But I cannot think of any other word for it. It appears that the Witness has staged a show. But for the Eliksni of Reese and the humans of Sol as its audiences, even though we should be so far beneath its notice, never mind its concern that it shouldn't even care about what frightens us. That's it. The Witness is not indifferent to us. It cares what we think of its performance, though of course it does not seek to delight or provoke. No. The Witness has done all it can to spread fear and despair among the people of Sol, as it did the people of Reese. It has chosen the approach that would cause the maximum possible amount of suffering and continued doing so until the very moment it went through that awful portal. I doubt that this is some brilliant tactical ploy to demoralize its enemies. It would have defeated both humans and Eliksni with or without its campaign of terror. Indeed, such actions appear to have drawn out its attacks on Sol and were a deeply inefficient use of its power. If the Witness's only goal was to corner the Great Machine and use it to further its plans, whatever those are, then why bother doing anything else? If this performance has affected the Great Machine at all, there is no evidence of such. And anyways, the worst atrocities of the Whirlwind occurred after the Great Machine left us, and could not see its effects. No, I believe this display of cruelty was meant for us. It was done to maximize our torment. I cannot think of any motivation to ascribe to this, except malice. This is really Eido's eureka moment, and its implications for us are about as bad as they can get. The Witness could have wiped us all out in the space of mere moments. It certainly had the power to do so. Even the more advanced civilizations that have fought against it realistically didn't even stand a chance. But here, with a civilization like ours or like the Eliksni's, where the Traveler had interacted with us before, it deliberately drew out our suffering. The destruction of the colony ships with slow gravitational weaponry, the igniting of Earth's satellites in low Earth orbit in a massive firestorm, the devastation of Titan, where the moon was momentarily pulled into an egg shape and then released back into a spherical one so that a great wave would wash across it and take the arcologies with it, even down to the gas that ripped everything away to the bone of anyone who was caught by it. This is all deliberately slow and deliberately horrifying. If Eido's speculation is correct, the Witness is doing all of this with us in mind, and is doing it potentially out of malice. This is all pressed even further in the next entry, which displays another record from the collapse. In this record we see a human survivor cursing the Traveler for its inaction. Remember what I said earlier about the way the Pyramid Fleet was seemingly designed to make the war feel hopeless? To get us in this place where we would be able to fight back against something, and yet we would not see any effect. It's designed to pull this feeling of dread from us. That note of hopelessness is brought up again here. It's realistically the final piece of the puzzle. Scribe Archive XI214B. Type Bridge Audio Recorder. Retrieved from Reef Cryptarchy Archives 10 Hygeia. Origin ARC 0475B71. Arcadia-class jumpship. Golden Age. Discovered partially integrated into 31 Euphrosyne. No pilot was recovered with the ship. Data heavily degraded. Partial restoration successful. Keywords: collapse, Black Fleet, darkness, taken. Identities: 1. Unknown, U1. Audio preserved. Annotated transcription follows. Come on, you bolt bucket! Come on! That's it then. Every last Newton I could squeeze out of this old bird. And it's not enough. There it is. The darkness coming right up behind me. Our guns, our ships, our silent god, useless. Useless! Centuries of progress. Where did it get us in the end? What good are you? We're dying out here, you big stupid ball. Do something! No. I didn't mean it. Please, don't be mad. Don't leave us. We'd be dead anyway, right? If you weren't here, right? Please, tell me I'm right. Am I lucky or not? I can't decide. They were all down there, fish-eyed, bloated, cold and blue. I was the only one who made it off the launch pad. And now I'm up here in this tin can. And I can see it out there. That ugly marble, it's just floating there. Do something! Why are you here if you're not going to help? It's your fault. It's all your fault! Let me out! Let me out! Let me out! Let me out! You should never have come here. Transcription ends. Scribe notes. Once again, I am grateful for the circumstances of my upbringing. It is not as difficult for me to enter the Reef as it might be for others, and the Techians and Reef Cryptarchs generously granted me access to their archives. There is a great deal of information preserved here that was lost everywhere else. The Yang Luwei brought with it exabytes of data intended for the benefit of the colonists it sheltered. Though they hoped to escape the shadow of the Traveler, they did not wish to lose their tether to the rest of humanity. All of that data survived the ship's transplantation to the distributory. Part of it was copied onto the ships Morrikel brought with her to the Reef, and of that part, almost all has survived in the Reef's archives to this day. I must admit, I almost didn't include this transcript. I am no stranger to the disturbing and distressing. As a scribe, it is my duty to record and pass on history. Even a history written by the survivors will have its dark corners. Nevertheless, I found this record difficult to listen to. It echoes the bitter words I've heard countless times before, from Elixni, who suffered the whirlwind, who saw the great machine leave us and cursed it for abandoning us. But when studying history, discomfort often accompanies the information that is most crucial to understanding. That is what I needed. That discomfort, that echo of Elixni lamentation. The Witness does not need cruelty to win. It does not need to mutilate the great machine's creations, to inspire fear and despair. It does not even need to tempt you to use the darkness, which it has claimed to be. Though we know from your experiences on Neptune that the Witness does not hold as complete a dominion as it wishes us to believe. In fact, its cruelty has actively slowed and hindered its purpose. Had the Witness simply overwhelmed humanity and crushed all resistance, there would have been nobody left for the great machine to uplift. No ghosts or guardians to defy it. I have spoken with Ikora Rey about the texts humans know as the Unveiling. I have tried to reconcile it with how I understand the light and what I know of the great machine. My understanding is imperfect, but I have gleaned this much. The Winnower speaks of convincing you that it is right, of existence as truth, of predation and defection. Nowhere does it speak of malice or hatred or despair. It does not care whether you embrace it or curse it, it simply desires to win and in victory be validated. For the Witness, victory alone is not enough. It must ruin all the great machine has touched, from the smallest creatures to the greatest planet. Destroy everything the light has built, drown hope in bitterness. The Witness would have us all curse the great machine, refute its gifts, and betray it, as the Black Fleet tramples us underfoot. It would make us all Eramis, sick with despair and crushing our own dreams. You see it too, do you not? The record from the Simics Fel, the communications from the Talax Sin. These messages set down in hope, in optimism, Once those who became the Witness saw the Great Machine as their hope for the future, as we did, as you do. They had hope once. They lost it. And now their successor, the great merging of their selves, the Witness, seeks to deny that hope any right to exist. These records in their totality show us that for the Witness, this entire war was personal the moment we received the blessing of the Traveler's bounty. It hates us, because it hates the Traveler. Regardless of who we are, be we Eliksni, human, awoken, exo, or anything in between. It has been deliberately trying to devastate our hope, and where it could have carried out our destruction with speed and efficiency, it has instead decided to break us, slowly and painfully, and in as complete a way as it can possibly manage. This is why that recording of somebody cursing the Traveler on their lost Arcadia jump ship is so important. It shows what the Witness wants. It shows the Witness's ultimate victory. It wants hopelessness. It wants the dread. It wants everyone to know that the Traveler is not going to save them. Why does a god care about what mortals do as they interact with it? The answer is really simple. The god is cruel. The Witness is cruel. But that cruelty has reason. It is based in a little nuance. It is only cruel because of its hatred for the Traveler, and anything that it seems to uplift. The Witness wants people to see the Traveler as it and perhaps its precursor creators had. When the precursors were abandoned, they didn't see the Traveler as their great savior anymore. They saw it as a grand traitor, an apostate to the final shape and the source of their suffering. The one thing that could potentially have merged with the Veil and allowed them to bring peace and consistency to the universe, something that would have allowed them to eradicate chaos, and yet something which abandoned them in their greatest moment, which could have been their greatest triumph. Now that we've also encountered the Witness, it has seen fit to make us suffer too. If it does manage to enact the final shape, it makes me wonder if those that were aided by the Traveler will suffer greatly at the end. If the Witness does attain the power to reshape all of reality to its image of perfection, then our suffering as opponents to that new status quo might be more than legendary. It might be eternal. One would hope that that isn't the case. After all, the final shape as the Witness sees it is meant to be an end to chaos and an end to pain. No more life, no more death. But the Witness has shown itself to be cruel, and has shown that it hates. And if it is given total control over the universe, I would hate to see what happens to those of us that it hates. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully this gives you a bit more of an insight into the Witness and maybe some other characters within Destiny's universe. In particular, I know that sticking in my mind is that last note from Eido about the difference between what we saw in Unveiling and the actions as displayed by the Witness. The Witness and the Winnower seem to be different. In fact, that's a tangent that I need to go on a bigger video about. I've already written the script for it and I'll be recording it next, but you can expect a massive video on the Winnower and the Witness next. In particular, I want to answer the question of, is the Witness the Winnower? Or at very least, try to answer it. It's a very hotly debated topic in the lore, and I wanted to wait a long while before I actually approached it. I needed lightning to strike on that particular topic, and thanks to another content creator out in the community called Venextron, I actually did have that lightning strike. So, with all of that said, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you're looking forward to that next video because it's going to be another long one, and it may well be one of the more important videos I've made over the 10 or so years I've been covering this game. That being said, if you did enjoy this video, go ahead and leave a like, and leave your own thoughts down below in the comments section. Do you reckon that there is anything behind the hatred of the Witness that explains more? Is there a reason for it? We haven't exactly seen some hatred generator where it's using our suffering to power anything. We haven't seen any purpose for it personally aside from the hatred it bears for the Traveler. What does this make you feel? And, of course, if you want more Destiny content, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Per audacia ad astra. I'll see you, Starside.